So what do you do when your braids are starting to get a little old, your scalp is getting dry, and they're just not looking as fresh as they used to? I am going to show you what I do with the Updo to End All Updos. We're going to start by oiling my scalp all over, literally making sure that I get every bit of scalp in between the braids. The applicator bottle is really good for that, and massaging that oil in. You want to make sure that your scalp is nice and moisturized, nice and supple before you start with your updo. Once the massage is done, you're going to push all of your braids forward and kind of divide them into three sections. One big section up the middle of your head and one section on each side. And you're going to take this two side sections and crisscross them over your middle section. And I like to pin them in place because the braids can kind of get heavy. You want to make sure that none of the braids kind of falls out of the crisscross design that you're creating in the back. That is really what makes this updo look so polished. So I always pin them in place. And I'm speeding this up just so you guys can see. Literally, it's just following the crisscross pattern all the way up to the front of my head. The middle section stays aligned in the middle, and the two side sections just crisscross all the way up until I get to the front of my head. I believe I did this crisscross pattern about 4 times until I got to the top of my head and was comfortable enough to start handling the braids and taking them into my fishtail. Now, before I start the fishtail, I actually have a section in the front that is sectioned off that is not going into the fishtail, and you'll see what I do with that at the end. So the fishtail braid is literally just taking one section from each side, making sure you pull from the outside of the section and feeding that into the opposite section. And it's really important to make sure that you pull from the outside because those are the braids that are going to keep your fishtail intact. So we are just going to finish that until we get all the way to the bottom of the braid, where I usually just go into a regular 3-strand braid just to make sure that my big fat plait does not come out. And here we go. So you can see that middle section in the front that I did not include in the fishtail braid. So right now I'm just kind of loosening the braid up a little bit just to make sure nothing is pulling. You know, you don't want to put any undue tension on your scalp. And I'm going to roll that fishtail braid like a jelly roll, pretty much, and pin that into place. Once that jelly roll is secure, I'm going to undo that front section that I did not braid, and I'm going to use that and wrap it around my jelly roll for the most part, and making sure that that section is aligned with the crisscross sections. And I pinned that down too, and it really is just to give another form of reinforcement for your little bun at the top. You want to make sure that it wraps around as snugly as possible, and as I said, I always pin it in place because it does give me that extra support for the bun. Now that that's in place, you're going to go through and just pin any stray braids that might be sticking out or that might be crawling out a little bit, again just to make your bun look just as polished as possible. And now for the finishing touches, you know you want to slick down those baby hairs, honey. And here I am actually taking those pins. Remember when I told you guys I pinned each section down? I'm taking those pins out just to make it look nice and seamless and make people wonder how I got all of those braids up there in the first place. And we are done.